Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Joyous Conversations with me, your host, Joy Makasi. And today we have a wonderful guest that I've been wanting to have a chat with for quite a while. My guest today is Neil Bailey. Neil, why don't you introduce yourself to everyone?
Hi everyone, my name's Neil. I'm from Hull-based tech metal band Dividium. Um, yeah, that's about it really. Just come on today to talk to Joy about pretty much anything and everything. So we'll just see what happens, I guess.
It is pretty much, it is just like Joyce getting some mates. We're just going to have a chat, see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to
Yeah,
it. It's going to be a good time.
no, it's going to be a good time, man. It's going to be a good time. So, let's just start off by saying how we know each other then, because I think that's usually a good through line.
Well, I've been thinking about this quite a lot since you asked me to come on the podcast, and I was like, well, I'm pretty sure it was Techfest, through the Techfest scene that we met. But then after you caveated your message with, "Oh, we're going to talk about Hull a little bit," because I was at uni there, I was kind of like, "Oh, okay." I'm wondering. When you have a kind of a feeling in the back of your mind, like, pretty sure we've met in Hull before.
Yeah, no, because that's how I know Joey. You know Joey, of course you know Joey. Like Joey Aitchison is the guy who runs, for those who don't know, Joey Aitchison runs JWA Productions. He does a
Yeah,
lot
man.
of amazing videos for Techfest at times and also bands, and he takes amazing pictures. He's a very good videographer and photographer. But
He
I
is a
was
great
at
guy.
he is also just a great guy. But yeah, I was at uni with Joey. That's how I know Joey.
Oh wow, yeah, because I know you went to Hull Uni. But
Yeah.
then when you mentioned Spiders, which is a nightclub in Hull, I was like, oh God, I wonder. I all started kind of piecing together. I was like, yeah, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm with you.
No, I miss spiders so much because I'm in Newmarket and even Cambridge or Barry maybe, but Cambridge and Newmarket, there's no nightclub that caters to alternative music and how you had spiders and also Welly as well. So you had just two institutions that just cater to alternative heavy music, which was fun.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, Pete, our guitarist, I'm pretty sure his mum's auntie used to earn Spiders, which is even weirder.
No way.
Yeah, so it's a real random situation, but I'm not gonna lie to you. Excuse me, I haven't been to Spiders in years because I've been going to Spiders since I was 14, and I'm in my mid 30s now, and and I honestly, the last time I went to Spiders, I vowed it to be my last time because I bumped into a person who I first taught because I'm a primary school teacher. I first taught them when they were 7 years old and they were in Spiders, and they were like,
Oh.
"Ah, Mr. Bailey!" I was like, "And it's home time."
That must be just total whiplash where it's just like I knew when you were a child and you're old enough to okay, I'm leaving now.
Yeah,
This is
I
just
remember having to tie your shoelaces, and now you're buying tequilas, and it is not cool.
no, that is mate. Like with me, I think the last time that I was I think I was still back at uni because I've not been well I still have friends in house, so I still go every now and then. But I haven't been in spiders for quite a while and Welly unfortunately ended up like closing down even before COVID, didn't it?
Yeah, well, it was up and down. It's been a bit of a weird one. It'll be closed quite a long period, but then it'll open back up and have a bit of a renewed vigor. But yeah, it's a bit touch and go with Welly, unfortunately. And it
That's
and it
quite
was a great venue.
Oh no, it was, and on top of that, I think it's one of the few music places that I know personally that's been around for more than 100 years. Because I remember when it got to its like centenary, and I was like, "Wow, Welly has been around for that long."
Yeah, the
I mean,
Wellington Club, man. Yeah, a really long time. I mean, Hull used to have a really, really strong um rock and metal scene back in the 70s, the 80s. There used to be places like Romeo's and all these different little venues that have been gone for, well, I mean, been gone for donkey's years now. But even when I first started going out, there were a lot of metal venues and rock venues in Hull. I mean, Spiders was always the staple, always. But there were lots of others that were quite long-standing institutions that ended up folding. It was a real shame.
Yeah, no, but I think that's just the way that a lot of things are happening. Like even before COVID, a lot of places were slowly closing, weren't they? Because
Oh God, yeah, yeah. It's become a culture of not going out. You know, it
yep,
became.
no,
I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but I think a big
it's good.
part of it comes from like when I first started going out in like the late 90s or like early 2000s, and I was going out. You could literally go to. There used to be a club in Hull called Room. And it used to have like an indie rock night on a Tuesday and a metal night on a Wednesday, and used to go to both because it was 50p in, it was 50 pence a pint, and admittedly, it was like dishwater. But you know, what I mean, it was cheap as chips, and I used to be able to go out on 10 quid, 15 quid, and that included your taxi home.
What really?
Oh, mate, yeah, for sure. I mean, if there was like three or four of you in a taxi, you only needed to chip maybe 2 quid in each or something. You could get to the other side of Hull or whatever. And so I used to be able to go out and get smashed on a tenner. And then now I can't even get from my house into town for anything less than 10 quid. And so before you've even started, you're already throwing money down the drain, you know?
Yeah, no, it's quite sad though, but such is life these days, though, isn't it? And
Yeah, for
especially
it.
with
No.
after COVID, everything was going to change.
Yeah, yeah,
It
that's
is a
it.
radical shift of everything. Yeah,
I mean, I was wanting to ask you about this actually because I've been asking a few. I know we've gone a little bit off topic, but
it's okay.
with, with live gigs coming back, do you honestly think we're actually going to see proper live gigs come back by like mid 2021? Honestly,
It, I mean, I think it's a bit tricky, especially with the vaccine that's coming and everything else. It's a bit all up in the air, but I can see it happening with 2021. I can actually see it like not fully coming back to 2021 because they have to roll out the vaccine, they have to get everything out, and they have to make sure that everyone is safe. Because especially in our community, we care about everyone who is going to be going to the gigs, and we want to make sure that everyone is safe. So
mm,
it is just basically waiting to see how that works. I mean, how is it for you then? Since you say you work at you're a primary school teacher, aren't you?
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah. How is it like at your work? I mean, you can say what you want or what you're allowed to, but
yeah.
how are you guys yeah, finding it?
Well, the actual school is taking literally every precaution it can. I mean, it's following all the guidelines, it's following all the guidance. You know, the teachers follow the guidelines and the guidance, and the kids do the best. I mean, we're a big school. It's a big school, 700 odd kids for a
Wow,
primary
that's
school.
a
That yeah, it's pretty big. And you know, the kids are all coming in with um sanitizer, and they wash their hands all the time. And you know, we're sending children home if they're poorly, and parents are being quite conscientious. And we're even lining up at the end of the day. Parents used to just come to the door and pick the kids up, and we're having to stop them at the gate and take the children there. And we're having to wear masks in when we can because you know, and socially distance where we can. But obviously, it's very difficult to socially distance in a school. You know, it's almost impossible to do it properly just because of the way schools are set out. They're meant to be enclosed and everyone in together. So it's, I mean, we're making the best of a bad situation, to be honest. And the school that I work at's done an amazing job. It really, really has. Um, but yeah, it's just a hard situation across the board, you know?
yeah, no, I totally get you. Like I work in facilities management, really. So I am part of the people who's making sure that everything is ready. And we started making the workplace that I work at ready, I think, June time. So we've been fully prepared. But because it is an IT world building, most of the people everyone is working from home really because they can. They're some of the lucky ones that can do that. But it has been quite tricky for quite a lot of people getting everything ready. But it's good to hear that your school they've made all the precautions and everything's coming out quite nicely.
Yeah, I think most schools are, man. I think everyone's desperately trying to keep kids in school because they know it's the best place for them, and um, you know, parents have to go to work. We get that, you know. So, and and if people are going back to work, then you know, fingers crossed things will get back to normal sharpish. That's what we want. We want the pubs open again so people can start going back to gigs and everything, don't we? But
Yeah,
it's just if the venues survive in
that is true.
meantime,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
very
But
difficult.
anywho, Yeah. Let's say anything. We've gotten sidetracked, which happens a lot on this podcast.
Yeah,
I think
man,
it's
for
going to
sure.
become a through line because we're just talking about life as well. But yeah, so going back to well, the heavier music and everything else.
Yeah.
Um, well, just actually not even heavier music, just music. Um, I usually ask my guests what current song or album that they're listening to at the moment. So, what's yours?
Well, I've been on a bit of a binge recently because up until lockdown, if I'm going to be honest, I kind of fallen out of love with music in general. Not playing it per se, but I was just so unenthused at finding new music. And then lockdown kicked in, and all of a sudden I had plenty of time to just browse listening to music. And I started talking to a few really cool people who started introducing me to loads of different bands. So to be honest, I haven't listened to necessarily one album recently. I've gone on a proper binge, and I've been trying to make up for the past few years of not really being that infused. But I think the thing that I'm really loving at the moment, new Soilwork, is absolutely superb. I mean, Soilwork, my favourite band, and they've just dropped a new EP yesterday, and it is or day before, and it is absolutely huge. It's amazing, amazing EP.
I'll have to give them a listen. I mean, with me, I I I will admit to a cardinal sin in the tech world. I have never really listened to Radiohead. Uh, so
Oh,
I started
yeah,
listening.
man.
I started listening to Kid A yesterday, the album, and I'm like, wow, okay, that is some good stuff.
Kid A was my first introduction to electronic-y kind of rock. I remember listening to that when I was doing my A levels, and I'm not gonna lie, it took me, you know, 10, 12 listens before it actually clicked with me. I was really unenthused about it, but yeah, it's definitely a staple. I mean, I'll always go back to OK Computer because that was a great album. But since Kid A, I've not really listened to anything Radiohead, to be honest.
Like I've not even listened to Okay, computer. I've only listened to Kid A, and it was because there's this YouTuber that I follow who ended up well dissecting Kid A, and as a person who likes a lot of rap, especially people like Kanye West and how
Hmm.
they utilize a lot of samples and electronic sampling and everything else, Kid A just hit me in a way. I was like, wow, because they were talking about how Bon Iver when they were doing when Bon Iver were when the guy from Bon Iver was doing his album, he took a lot of his inspirations from Kanye West, and that started my through line. I was like Bon Iver, and then I checked out Kid A. I'm like, I like this.
Mm. It was a bit of a sideswipe, because it was just so different to anything that was around at the time, especially in the mainstream. It was pretty wild, to be honest.
Yeah,
So
but that's the thing though that sometimes you need to just do a swerve and then see what happens.
yeah, well, I think the bands that last the longest are the ones who develop their sound. They move past where they were originally. If you listen back to the first Radiohead album, Pablo Honey, and then even like the Bends, they were v- vastly. Each album was quite vastly different. Like Incubus, they're another band who
Oh yeah.
who they just developed with every album. They completely rewrote their sound almost for every single album they ever wrote.
Oh yeah, I
And
remember telling somebody I was like, Incubus is basically a different genre each album.
yeah, 100%. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they started off doing the whole, they wanted to be Mr. Bungle and with, I can't remember what like Fungus Among Us and all that kind of stuff. And then um, the next album was just new metal. And it was just like, okay, wasn't expecting that, but fair enough. And then the album after that, Morning View, was a more kind of light American kind of summery album.
Yeah.
And they just kind of developed as they went. And I mean, sometimes it's hit and miss. I get that. Bands can't strike gold every time necessarily, but they're pretty influential band really, considering how many other bands they've influenced.
Oh, that is so true, man. I totally agree on that one.
Mm.
So, while we're talking on music now, and you touched on Incubus were in metal, I'm gonna do the weirdest segue to heavier music. So,
Okay. Yeah.
with yourself, how did you end up into heavier music? Because everyone has their own story that's always interesting about how we went from liking pop to in mosh pits.
Yeah, well, I kind of when I was a kid, I first discovered music through Queen, which I think for a lot of
Ah,
rock and metal fans, that is often a gateway band. And I was obsessed with Queen. I was obsessed with the Beatles. I loved things like the Four Seasons, and it was all bands that my mum used to listen to. Chicago, the Who, all these different kinds of bands that used to just play in the background of my childhood. I never really thought anything of them. Big Country, even when my dad used to listen to them in the car, and so I got into just a lot of I ended up starting off quite eclectic as a child. I just listened to anything I liked. And then as I got a bit older, I remember being in a history lesson in about year 9 or something like that, and I was talking to my friend about Queen. I'd only just met this lad, and we were sat next to each other in class, and he was like, "Oh, have you ever heard of Green Day?" And I was like, "No, no, I've never heard of them." And he lent me a couple of tapes, and I wore those tapes out. I just listened to Dookie and Insomniac just on repeat for months and months, and then that went into The Offspring, and then that egged me on into Nirvana, and then Foo Fighters, and I kind of went down that avenue at first. Then going into Spiders, the music in Spiders was just wild. It'd just play whatever, wouldn't it? In the small room, it would be just the most random mix of metal, like Nine Inch Nails, and then it was Pantera, and then it was Green Day, and then it was Nirvana, and then it would be um, just some obscure.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, and it just Bloodhound Gang or something like that, and I ended up getting into really heavily into like the pop punk. I got into like pop punk ska, Less Than Jake, all that kind of stuff. And I kind of plateaued on that for a few years until I went to uni. And when I went to uni, I joined a band with a lad who introduced me to Machine Head.
Okay.
And now, as a rule, Machine Head aren't really one of my favourite bands. They had a couple of really great albums, but it was the Burning Red, so it was a really new metal tinted album. And from there, I just went down the rabbit hole, and it was System of a Down, Trivium, all those different kinds of new wave of British heavy metal bands. Um, and then I moved in with a lad who, and this was probably one of the most defining moments. He was just like, "Oh, have you ever heard of Pig Destroyer?" And I was like, "No." And he played me "Power in the Yard" by Pig Destroyer, and it was just like 25, 30 minutes of just pig squeals and just and just growling into a mic and the most furious blast beats I'd ever heard. And I was like, "Oh my god, what's this?" And he was like, "Grindcore." And and then I went down this. I just went down this avenue of just being obsessed with extreme metal for so long. Um, and then I got into a proggier side. I got into like the Melodeath, Soilwork, In Flames, um, all those kind of bands. And then I really obsessed over Soilwork and In Flames for a really long time. They were all I listened to for months and months and months, and I still listen to Soilwork at least daily. I can't go throughout my day without listening to them at least once. But then I delved into quite proggy stuff, so I went into like, excuse me, Dream Theater and all those kind of bands, and I got really into like, oh my god, 25-minute prog epics, and and I loved all that kind of stuff. And then it was like the Periphery side of things as well, I suppose, when Periphery
Yeah,
came
yeah,
out,
got you. Yeah.
and they started, you started getting the proggy tech kind of edge to things, and that's when I really kind of found my niche of the music I liked. Um, but yeah, I've met a few people recently as well who have just introduced me to an even more diverse genres of metal, and it's fantastic. I just every day I keep finding a new song by a band in a genre that I haven't really delved into too much, or I haven't delved into for a lot of years and forgot about it, and that's been really good. So at the moment, I'm all about the post rock. So all kind of like the post rocky kind of instrumental stuff's really I'm really digging at the moment. So yeah, it's been a long weird journey, but it's been a real good time. Yeah,
No, that's good. Yeah, and I was gonna say that it's interesting that you mentioned Queen because I remember when didn't Metallica do a cover of Stone Cold Crazy,
yes,
and they ended up saying that to them they're like that is for us the first ever thrash metal song that was ever made before thrash metal because it has kind of the same building blocks, but it's just not thrash metal yet
yeah,
because
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, that was there. Queen's another band that just constantly redesigned themselves with every album.
oh yeah.
And the thing I really loved about Queen is they used to have really strong convictions. Like when they released Night at the Opera, probably one of my favorite albums of all time. In the credit notes, it says all of them. They were really proud of the fact they put all of the sounds that you hear on this album were made with real instruments. No synthesizers were used. And then in interviews, they were saying, "Oh, we don't use synthesizers." Do you know what I mean? It's a cop out. But then the next album, it's literally all synth, and and I really love the fact that they were one of those bands that would just go back and go, "No, we're wrong," and we wanted to explore and do something new. And I think that's really important to be as a musician is to be able to look back and kind of go, "No, I was wrong there."
Yeah, to evolve, and also like with Queen
Absolutely,
and their convictions. If I'm not mistaken, didn't they say that they would not play in South Africa due to apartheid?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and because it was a big deal. Like Paul Simon got hauled over the coals for it for when he did Gracelands, didn't he?
yeah,
Because he used the South African choirs and things like that. So yeah, I mean they were one of those bands that absolutely outright refused to just do anything that went against what they believed in. I really liked that about them. Um, and also, not even that. It's just they were a really one of the hugest bands in the world with an openly gay lead singer at a time when being openly gay was still, was essentially kind of like a career ending, career ending thing to do, and all the lads in the band stuck by him and were just like, well, he's Freddie, innit? You
ready.
know,
Yeah,
and that was amazing, and I think he did a lot you know for making being gay acceptable because it obviously is, and he was a cornerstone for doing something like, and same with people like Kenny Everett and all these different kinds of really important figures in pop culture who were openly gay and were just like, well, this is who I am. So that's another reason I really love Queen. They're amazing.
yeah. No, Queen were really good, and they still stand the test of time to
Absolutely.
this day.
Yeah.
Although
Sure.
for me, the thing that always blows my mind is so I love Highlander, and I think you might as well.
Oh,
The whole
yeah,
fact
man.
that they just the music for Highlander, I'm like, oh,
Oh, just gets you so pumped.
yeah, it's like Queen did Highlander. I keep on remembering that every now and then. Did they also do Flash Gordon?
Yeah, I was just about to say I was talking to a really good friend um, yesterday, in fact, and we were talking about childhood films that we always used to go back to, just like real staple feel good childhood films. And she was like, "Oh, Flash Gordon." Me and my sister used to watch it all the time, and I was like, "Do you know what? I've never seen Flash Gordon. The only thing I know is Queen did the
Music.
the music, yeah." And oh, what's his name? Um, I remember Vic Perrin as well as Ming the Merciless. But that was literally it. I don't remember anything else about the film. Um, and yeah, it's just something I've never ever seen. So I feel like I've missed out a little bit on that one. I should kind of like dig in purely
Sure, you
for the
can find it
soundtrack.
somewhere online.
Yeah, absolutely. Just for the soundtrack, man. Okay.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
It was superb. So, what have you been listening to anyway, apart from Kid A and what you've been saying? What's your big thing at the moment?
So, funnily enough, you should mention this. Since Spotify ended up doing their Wrapped thing, I ended up listening to my top 100 songs,
Oh,
and it is for me just what's to be expected. A very weird mixture of a lot of hip hop and also a lot of just weird metal on the side.
mm.
And you guys are actually on there on my top 100
Oh,
listen to
check it out.
because you guys are part of my driving list and my chill gent list with send nudes.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Oh, I'm totally stoked on that.
I love the song. It's an amazing song, man. I really love it. And just getting to see you guys performing at Techfest last year was just amazing. It was so much fun.
Oh, dude, it was such a good time. It was literally my favorite show that I've ever played. It was absolutely superb. And you mean I can be a bit of a nervous one before Gossage. I mean, I've been playing on stages for like 20 years, and I still get the butterflies. I still get real kind of anxious and kind of like a really fast heart rate. And then I see other people just like taking it all in the stride, and I'm sat there like hyperventilating in the back, just like, oh my god, okay. But it was just the best time. That set was just wonderful. The worst bit about it though is anyone who's been to Techfest will know that the stages are just in these big corrugated metal hangars, and you'll probably agree with me, it must have been one of the hottest days of the year.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god! And um, all the really like Nick Ward, I
Nick
think
Ward,
was,
yeah.
yeah, was there, and he was like, right, do you want? I'll help you load your gear onto the stage. I was like, oh, nice one, man. Yeah. Walked on stage with the gear, and I was just like, oh my god. As soon as the lights hit me, and to top it all off, like an absolute knob, I was in a long sleeve. I don't even know what
Yeah,
I
you
was
were. Yeah.
thinking. I was like, the lads from the Mechanist had been like, oh, get a long sleeve. I was like, yes, mate, this long sleeve is sick. Can't wait to wear it on stage. And as soon as I got on, I was like, oh, immediate regrets. You know,
Like, mistakes were made.
yeah,
Mistakes were made.
there
Very
is
much
no,
so.
there is no going back. I'm committed, but I'm not going to have a good time. It's going to be horrible.
No, it's gonna be terrible. But yeah, I actually saw Nick on the weekend in Newmarket in the street, and he said hello. Yeah,
Oh, that's awesome. Nick's awesome. All do you know
Nick is
what
awesome.
the full I can't think of the word, like the support staff, I suppose, at Techfest, everyone behind the scenes, they're all just such legends.
Oh no, they so are.
Like
They really literally are.
we turned up to Techfest to get our passes and everything, we ended up having like a 25-minute conversation with the lad who gave us our pass. Do you know what I mean? It was just that everyone we spoke to, we just ended up having a proper good natter with, and it's just really lovely atmosphere. You always feel so welcome. It was a real good
It
time.
it so is, and I'm happy that everyone has a place like that where they feel very comfortable and welcomed, and they can just relax and have a good time, and then do the best sets of their lives.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, I think that's a big part of it is when you feel comfortable on a stage, because when you go to Techfest, everyone is there to watch music.
Oh yeah,
And it doesn't matter if it's signed or unsigned. Everyone's in for the long haul, and they're just like, right, next band, let's go. We were on at 1 o'clock. We thought we'll have an okay crowd, but people will be hungover and people will be sitting in the sun and people will be, waiting for their favorite bands and stuff. And then we went on stage and you know, one band finished in the main room, and then this swell of people. It was like a
coming
literal
in.
sea of people just piled in, and we were just like, "Oh wow, damn, okay, that's awesome." And every single one of them stuck around. Nobody did that. Stick your head in for a minute and like, yeah, everyone stuck around from the beginning to the end, and it was just a really amazing atmosphere. Everyone just seemed so pumped for it, you
Yeah,
know.
no, man. That is the way that it is.
Yeah.
So since we're talking about Dividium, I want to ask you, how did Dividium get started then?
Well, Dividium was well, Pete and I have been in a band together since 2007. We've known each other ever since I came back from uni. We met almost immediately, and we were in a band together. And that band was together about 5 years, 6 years, something like that, maybe even longer. And folded. And as soon as it folded, we had all these songs, that we'd been writing. And we initially started out, our old band started out as a thrash metal band. I mean, Pete and the other lads that were in the band were all about Metallica. They were all about like
The
Megadeth
big
and
four, yeah.
Trivium and all those kind of bands. Yeah, Slayer and stuff like that. And it wasn't my cup of tea, to be honest. I've never been an overly huge like classic thrash fan. But they were all such nice lads, and it was so much fun kind of being in the band, you know. And we ended up developing the sound as we went, and we got a lot more into prog, and Pete and I went right down a Dream Theater rabbit hole, you know, and we ended up starting to write all these more proggy songs, and then the band ended up folding, and we were just like, well, we're going to keep going, aren't we? And he was like, well, yeah, of course we are. And Pete's one of those dreadful people who's good at everything.
Oh,
And
one of those.
oh my god, man, the guy is a human metronome, and he plays bass, he plays guitars. He plays drums just as good as he does guitar, and everything. And it was just like, oh, dude, suck. But but we ended up saying, oh, well, let's record this album. Let's do this album with the songs that we're planning. And he was like, well, I'll just do all the drums and everything for it. And we were like, oh, all right then. So we went to the lad that we always record with, Rob Hobson, up at Silent City Studios in Leeds. We've recorded everything we've ever done with him. And we just, pretty much the two of us recorded the whole thing. We had a real nice lad called Steve come in and lay the bass down. He did a real good job. And he was in Dividium for about a year after we'd started. But it was mainly just like me and Pete had written everything, and we just went in and recorded it. And we thought, right, this seems pretty cool. But God, we struggled for years trying to get a drummer and a solid, like a permanent bassist. And we had a group of lads from Sheffield who used to travel down every week. And the first time we played Techfest was with the lads from Sheffield, Danny and Gene. They came down, and they were with us for about a year and a half. And then that all kind of folded, which was a bit of a shame. They couldn't make the commute. And James Coggin from the Coal Line, um, obviously he from Hull as well, Hull lads, and they used to borrow our practice room. And one time we were just like, said to Coog, we were like, oh man, do you fancy stepping in and doing a set on drums for us? Because, you know, we've lost our drum. And he was like, oh yeah, mate, that'd be sick. Yeah, I'd love that. So he came down, practiced, went through the songs once, twice, you know, practiced, went to the gig, totally smashed it, came off stage, and he was just like, sick, so I'm joining the band full time then. And we were like, yes, please. Nice one. And then a couple of months later, the colour line folded. So it was a perfect opportunity for him to just get his teeth into something a bit different. And then we just thought, well, we better start looking for a permanent bassist. And I put an advert out on Facebook, you know, the usual kind of like, oh my God, guys, check us out. We need a bassist, you know, kind of thing. And within 30 seconds, a lad who I've known for the last 20 years, 15 years, messaged and he was like, bass, please. And it ended up being Joe. And we were just like, oh, cool, yeah, just learn a couple of tunes if you want, man, and come down. And he came down and he learnt the full album. And that was because he's ridiculous. And that was it. And it's been that way ever since, just like 4 or 5 years with those lads now. And they're just the absolute best boys, you know?
I love that. It's just like, oh, just learn a few songs. I have learned the whole album.
Uh,
When do we begin?
They are all absolute nonsense. They make me feel like the worst musician. Um, and yeah, they're just all wonderful. They're all just such talented buggers, and I hate them for it. So
You see, you shouldn't beat yourself up because A, you're an amazing musician in your own right. So we'll
thanks,
start off there.
man.
And on top of that, we have way too many talented friends in Techfest. You
Mm.
would just be getting annoyed with life.
Oh god, yeah. Seriously, it's uncanny how many amazing musicians are in one place when Techfest is going on. It's gross.
Yeah, like with me, I will never stop just singing the man's praises, but Harrison is just a musical genius that to certain levels I'm like, how is this happening?
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just wild. And you meet these people, and they're the most humble, down to earth people, and they're just like, "Yeah, play an instrument." And you're like, "You're not kidding, dude. You play that instrument, my god." And it's just I don't know. The one thing I've really liked about the Techfest scene is we've been from Hull. It can be a bit of a struggle, especially with um, our jobs and things like that. Like the only time we can tour is when I am on holiday from school because I can't get off during
Term
during
time.
during term time. It is impossible. I just can't do it. So that can be awkward. And in the past, we've been pretty unorganized trying to book gigs. It was always something we were always able to write and we were always able to get on stage and put on a shirt and do all that and talk to everyone afterwards. But trying to book gigs is like pulling teeth sometimes, man.
Oh yeah.
I remember the days where I used to have to leave an answer phone message on somebody's machine to book a gig. And now it's all kind of like everything's through Facebook, everything's through Twitter, everything's through Insta. And it kind of bypassed me a little bit. So I've been having to kind of learn it all and kind of get into the swing. Um, but uh, yeah, it was always a bit of a toughie being in Hull as well because Hull seems nobody comes to Hull. Nobody comes to Hull.
Unfortunately, yeah.
It's just at the end of the motorway. It's at the end of the M62. It just saps the life out the music scene, and everyone tries really hard in Hull to make a music scene. And there's some great people putting on really kind of DIY kind of gigs like Phil Wilkinson from Hull Noise Collective and stuff. He does practice room shows and he's brought some amazing bands to Hull.
And also O'Reilly's. Don't forget
Yeah,
O'Reilly's.
and obviously Darren at
Aaron
O'Reilly,
Banting. Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
yeah, and Mac from the Polar Bear and people like that are all putting on amazing gigs. But it's just so difficult because there's only so there's only so many people into metal in Hull,
Oh
unfortunately,
yeah.
because
Yep. No, no.
it's at the arse end of nowhere, But we were really lucky because a couple of bands would come to Hull, because tech metal's pretty thin on the ground in Hull anyway because it's a small place. But then like bands like Exist Immortal came through and Valis Ablaze, and it was really cool because we always ended up getting put on sets with them, and they proper took us under the wing, and all of a sudden we're getting invited down to London to play shows with them, and and it was all just because we were on the same bill in Hull. And all of a sudden they're like messaging us going, "Oh yeah, lads, come down to London, play a show," and we're like, "Oh, sick. Yeah, okay." That's awesome. So really cool things like that have happened in the past. Um, and that's been pretty cool. So that's another reason I love the tech scene. It's just everyone always, most bands try and give you a leg up.
Oh yeah, that's true.
You know,
And
uh, it's been pretty awesome.
yeah, and as I was saying with Jahan last week, that it is just a really good place to just get to know people and network in essence because everyone is there for the music. That is their
Mm.
main thing. So it's really good in that instance.
Yeah, I mean, you speaking of Jahan, I actually met him for the first time straight after our set at Techfest last time, kind of having a bit.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, really random when he came up. He was like, "Oh, it's real sick, lads," and we were like having a bit of a chat afterwards. So yeah, that's funny that you mentioned Jahan. That's cool. But yeah, I mean, we got into Techfest purely by luck, if we're going to be honest. Um, Sam Arundel from the Call Line.
Oh yeah, Sam. Good old Sam.
Sam was a real good mate. I worked with him at O'Reilly's when O'Reilly's first opened. I helped him out like behind the bar because I used to be like a cocktail waiter and worked bars and stuff. So he was like, "Oh, will you step in and do a little bit?" So I was like, "Yeah, all right then." We played a gig one night, and afterwards he was just like, "Yeah, lads, that was real sick. I'm just gonna drop Simon a message, just let him know that I think you'd be real good for Techfest." And we were just like, "Oh, cool, thanks, man." Didn't think anything of it. And about a month later, he was like, "Oh yeah, lads, you got to sort Techfest." We were like, "What?" That was like 2016. We were like, "Okay." And then after that, Simon you just kept getting in touch. He was like, "Oh, do you want to do a tech habilitation? Down at New Cross Inn?"
Oh, New Crossing, that
Yeah,
very interesting place.
yeah, man, absolutely wild that place, dude.
Oh yeah, that's what we'll say. It's wild. That's what we'll say.
Yeah, for sure. And then we played a couple of tech habilitations, and that was a real good time. We met some great bands, some real good people doing that. And then obviously he got us on to Techfest again two last year. And yeah, we were hoping, fingers crossed, that when Techfest kicks back in again, like to repeat it because what an experience.
Indeed, man.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
I know it will be amazing to see you guys again because you guys are
Oh,
just amazing.
I love to, dude. It's just so much fun. I mean, we it's funny actually that I was talking to a friend about this the other day as well. Um, when we first started out before Dividium, and even just as we started Dividium, we'd always tried to be a serious cool metal band. Never like super serious, but we were always like, got to make a good impression. We've got to be there on time. We've got to get on stage on time. We've got to have a real good song, and we did all that, and we've stuck with that. But we hit a point where I think we all kind of hit our 30s and then kind of went, oh, do you know what? Everyone is just far too serious. And after that, it was just like, let's just be idiots. Let's just lean into the fact that we're all clowns because we are. We're all absolute muppets, the lot of us. So, like, all our videos reflect that. All our silly videos and
Would you kindly? Yes. Would you
yeah,
like?
exactly. Yeah, we literally were just like Neil Buchanan having a nightmare coma dream. We were like, yeah, and we'd watch loads of things like there was a short like an animation short online called "Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared,"
Yeah.
um, which is amazing. If anyone wants to check out some really dark humor, watch that. And they were like 4 or 5 minute skits where they did really jerky songs, but they were done with puppets, and they always ended up really disgustingly gory or sinister. And we just kind of like, yeah, we're doing that. That's what we want to do. And then when we go on stage, we try and reflect that silly side, and we was like, nobody wants to watch a band that just stands there, not doing the
No.
metal we do. So we were just like, right, we just go ham, you
Well,
know.
you're the with you. You're the antithesis of just standing there because I remember being on the ground with you just twirling around the microphone stand like it was your personal boast off, like just like
Yeah,
let's just.
seriously, that is my Freddie Mercury move. Honestly, that it is me leaning hard into the Freddie. I had to do it. But yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was just like when I go see bands, my favourite bands are always the bands that just go, eh. You know, you think of your Dillingers and like Greg from Dillinger and all those kind of bands, and they just get on stage and they just look like that's that's the reason they got up this morning. Do you know what I mean? It's their reason for being.
For living. This
Yeah,
that
their
that's why
raison
they're on Earth.
d'etre kind of thing. And I was like, that's how I wanted to come across. I was like, I'm here right now. This might be the last time I ever do this for all I know, or I might never get to play Techfest again in front of all these people. If I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna have to give it some beans because, you know, otherwise I don't know what you just don't know, do you? And also, not just that, I feel like a right twat when I'm just stood there. You know what I mean? If I'm just kind of stood staring at the audience, like, you know, when you see kids on home videos doing talent shows in school or something, and we're like, oh, staring at the microphone. I don't want to do that. So,
No, you want to entertain. You want to give a show.
absolutely, man. Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So,
Okay. So since we're on TechFest, I will end up asking what you would say is your favorite TechFest experience because everyone has one that sticks out for them. Some are very weird, but I'm always interested to know what people's favorite moments are or experiences.
right. Well, I'd probably say one of my favourite moments was obviously playing. I know that's a given. Everyone's going to say that. But the last time we played was incredible. Um, like, I remember after we finished playing and somebody picked me up and put me on their shoulders and stuff, and that was pretty cool. Just all those kind of moments. But I would probably say one of the funniest moments was um, got a friend called Lewis who's in a really cool band called 99% Cobra, who
Louis Ross? Shout out.
Yeah, the boys in 99% Cobra absolutely slaying it. They played the after show um, last in 2019, and they absolutely just smashed it completely. Um, but Lewis is one of the nicest dudes I've ever met, but he just gets himself into situations that are hilarious. And there was somebody in a massive inflatable penis suit. And we ended up just like chatting with this lad in this massive penis suit. And Lewis was like, "Oh, I'm going back to my tent. I'm really tired." So we're like, "Oh, all right then, dude," because he was hanging out of his arse hungover. And then turned to the guy in the penis suit. We were like, "You know what to do." He was like, "I'm on it." And he just absolutely bombed into this tent in his penis suit and just, I don't even want to think what happened in that tent. Oh, oh my God, get him off me!
Oh dear God.
Help! Yeah. But I think some of the best moments are just after the bands have finished. It's you're all sat around, big group here, like 15, 20 of you all sat around, and you're just with your mates, and it's freezing, and you've got nipples like bullets because it's so cold on a night at Techfest. But you're all just sat together drinking and or just chatting and just actually spending time together. And I think that's probably my favorite. My favorite thing is just talking to everyone and anyone and everyone having the time for you.
Well, yeah, no, I agree, and that's quite true there because I think it's a bit cliche because I laugh because seriously, let's be honest. Everyone in the metal community ends up saying we're a family. It's like,
Mm,
are we are we in a Fast and Furious film now? Is that how we're going? Should Vin Diesel just pop out say family?
exactly. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I know it can seem
It's
cliche,
true,
can't
yeah.
it? But I will tell you what one of the best Techfest experiences ever was actually. Okay, I found a pair of sunglasses that actually suited my face for a fiver, and I'm not
Oh,
gonna lie
the test
to you,
glasses. Yeah.
it was probably one of the best moments of my life because I just don't suit sunglasses, and I put these glasses on, and all the lads were like, "Yeah, mate, you look awesome." I was like, "Yes," and then I lost them, and I'm
Oh,
absolutely gutted.
I would speak to Simon to see if we still have any in stock
Oh,
because when
thanks, man.
yeah, well, last year was the first year that I wasn't working merch. I'm usually working merch, so I'm usually selling people the sunglasses and everything else.
All the
So yeah,
onesies, all the banana hammocks and the mankinis.
I have a burgundy onesie and I love it.
Oh,
It's so
man,
just lush.
that is a
It-
power move. If you turn up next year in it, you earn that place. I'm just saying.
oh, I was in it on one of the last days, and there's Amanda Follett probably has a video of just George Ho just basically cradling me because in my onesie because
Giant baby.
that happened, and I was just like, I know I'm tiny, guys, but really, okay.
Just lean into it, man. Just accept it. You like the
It's
mascot.
like I
Yeah.
don't have to walk. Somebody's carrying me. Just let it go. Enables me to be lazy.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll give you a cuddle next time I see you. It'll be a good time
Thank you very much, man. Ah, looking forward to it.
for sure.
So, um, moving a bit now from the heavier stuff and moving to the other genres. I keep on bumping my microphone by accident. What other genres are you into besides, well, the heavy metals that the youth are into?
Right. Well, I do listen to a lot of metal, but I have to admit I will go through periods where, I'll go from like melodic death through to kind of like real proggy stuff, and then I'll go to just pure death metal or back to my grind or something like that. But I can often slip really easily back into pop punk, no problem. It's a real easy go to kind of like, oh yeah, I was gonna listen to pop punk. But I've been getting a lot more into my atmospheric stuff recently. I'm desperately trying to force myself to listen to black metal because I really want to like black metal, but I'm really struggling with it.
You see, when you say that, I would say technically, I'll need to double check this with Gareth Mason, but doesn't technically Slice the Cake count as black metal or not?
Do you know what? I am dreadful with genres, and I get it wrong all the time. I'm a real amateur when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Oh,
But
same here.
yeah, I'm really crap. But I mean, I've been listening to a bit of Kardashev, and they're kind of like black and metal, but with really beautiful, clean vocals.
Ooh.
Yeah, really, really good time, man. Um, but I've been listening to stuff like Good Tiger and Spanish love songs, Broadside. So kind of like that more mature pop punk. Um, I can often kind of sink back into new metal quite easily. For a lot of years, I hated Limp Bizkit, and I hated Limp Bizkit because I just thought they were the trendy band, and it was at that point where I was like, oh my god, I can't like Limp Bizkit. They're too cool for that. It was that kind of thing, and then I kind of hit my late 20s and discovered Limp Bizkit. Even though I knew all the songs, I was just like, oh my god, this band's amazing. And everyone laughs at me because like, mate, Limp Bizkit aren't amazing. I'm like, but they are. So you need to stop arguing, okay? But even to the point where me and the lads in Dividium are in a Limp Bizkit tribute band now.
No way,
We do a
really?
Limp Bizkit tribute band on the side called Limp Wristed, and
Wait,
that's great.
Simon has told me about you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of really good Limp Bizkit cover bands going around, like No Consequence lads do like Limp Bizkit tribute and stuff like that. But yeah, we do the full works. I dress up like a ginger Fred Durst, got the red cap, got the baggy shirt and the offensively oversized trousers. Pete completely skeleton makeup. He goes the full Wes
The-
Borland kind of look.
yeah.
Oh mate, it's glorious, and we just play all of Chocolate Starfish, and
See,
yeah, it's
yep.
crazy. Yeah,
You see, now that you've mentioned pop punk, you're just now making me try to look at the lineup for
Slam
Slam Dunk
Dunk.
because they have some good pop punk like that was lined up, and I was so ready to go this year, but then, well,
Mm, God, so was I, dude. I was real stoked for it. I mean, I can fall really into the trap of bands like Ice Nine Kills because I really like all the theatrical side of it. It's something that really interests me because I think we can be a bit theatrical. Like Dividium have those elements of being a bit over the top in places and stuff, and I really like that. And I think it just itches that Queen kind of itch for me, you know.
yeah.
But I've been listening to a lot of stuff like Dayseeker, so real kind of that more kind of ambient kind of metal, and even heading back into really old school stuff like Sixth. I've always loved Sixth. I always end up going back to uh, like Summer Rain and Flogging the Horses and all that kind of that era. Can't help myself. And Dillinger.
Dilly just came
Yeah, I
back.
keep going back to Dillinger because Dillinger are wicked. But yeah, one of my favourite bands at the moment that I really have been digging is Crazy 88.
Why do wait? Isn't that referenced in the Tarantino movie, or are they referencing Kill Bill? I'm.
I'm not 100% sure,
I mean,
but I don't know. It just depends on my mood. But I would say pop punk is one of my favourite things to go to. But I'm really into gaming soundtracks as well. And ambient kind of stuff, and you know,
okay, so since you said that, sorry to cut you off, but
no,
have you
no,
heard of a
no.
band called Archeon?
Yes,
Okay, because that literally mixes your atmospheric, but it's metal, but it might be in a Nintendo game. I'm
yeah.
not so sure how it's all. I'm friends with some of the guys, so when they hear this, they'll be like, "Oh, it's kind of true."
Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, I remember years ago listening to Horse the Band, and it was just, and they actually described themselves as Nintendo Core, and I was like, I am
Yeah.
so on board with this right now. I'm so deep into this. It's amazing. But I mean, gaming soundtracks are as good as film scores now.
Oh, mate, I totally agree. Like, if they played me Automata,
Yes, yeah.
yeah, no, that is, yeah, the soundtrack, and
If the arguments for our games are, it's like yes. They 100% are. I mean, purely for the music alone, if nothing else. You know, and gaming soundtracks just stand the test of time. I mean, it's one of the reasons I got into heavy music was gaming soundtracks. 100%.
Really?
Oh, for sure, man. You go back and listen to the SNES era kind of like action shooting games or anything like that. It's all 16-bit metal.
Huh.
All of it is just like they even shred. Like I always remember a game called it was an RPG called Mystic Quest Legend, and the game was pretty lame in itself, but the music was incredible, and I still jam the soundtrack now. And the battle music was easily one of the most pumped songs I've ever heard. It just went so hard. It was amazing.
See, I thought that you'd have said, like most of us, Tony Hawk, because that literally was just a gateway for so many people.
Mate,
With
I
just
missed Tony Hawk.
so many. Really?
It completely bypassed me. I just completely missed it.
Oh, mate.
I know, but I mean, to be fair, I listened to most of the bands on Tony Hawk anyway.
Yeah,
It would have
no,
been, it would have been totally dope if I'd actually realised that's what it was at the time. You know?
no, that's true.
Yeah,
Since we're actually on video games, what other geeky things are you into nowadays? Well, these days. I mean, I think we had a conversation on Facebook once about you guys playing D&D as the band.
yeah, that's right, dude. Well, not D&D is like our actual band. Like we are Dividium.
How did I never realize? Because I have your Doom shirt that whenever I
Yeah,
have
dude.
that, people are like, oh, and it's like, oh, you like Doom? It's like, no, it's actually a band called Dividium, actually.
Yeah,
They're
come
from
on,
Hull. Seriously, posers. They don't
man.
understand anything.
Noob. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I love gaming. I've been a real big gamer ever since I was, you know, 4 or 5 years old. My parents got me a Commodore 64, and I've always gamed ever since then. And I do get really engrossed because of storylines and music and stuff like that, and I can get really, really enthused with games. So I've always been a gamer. I love stuff like that. And me and the lads and a lot of my friends, um, we we game. I've been talking to. I've been gaming with Maria from Metal Man's as well. I got a Switch recently, so she's been kicking my ass in Mario Kart, which has been it's not been great if I'm going to be honest, but you know. But when we can actually all get back together, D&D is a big thing that we do, and we actually do a Mass Effect based D&D. So we're mixing like our love for nerdy games in with nerdy board games, and it's absolutely superb to be honest. Pete's the DM, and he's the most ruthless DM I've ever met. Whereas Joe is the funniest person I've ever played anything with because he just don't care. And he's just like, right, I'm gonna do this. And like everyone could die, and he's like, yeah, you know,
Is it just is it just literally chaotic then? Is that more like
yeah,
chaotic
mate, he's
neutral? Yeah.
chaotic neutral all the way.
Yeah.
I mean,
Chaotic neutral all the way.
in real life as well. He's just completely. I love it. I hope he never changes. And James is a real fun person to do D&D with because he gets real serious and he gets real into his character and it's really endearing. But it started off as a group of like 5 of us, and now it's grown to like 12 of us all playing together. And yeah, it's fantastic. I love it. It's such a good time. It's like every Tuesday we do it, and we're there for like 5 hours. And to be honest, we just use it as an excuse to get together. We cook.
Aw.
We all sit together and eat, and then we'll game and we'll talk and chat and laugh. And it is just a really good time. It's just a real nice way to just socialize and do something outside the practice room. You know what I mean?
No, I got you there. Yeah, like with
Yeah,
me, I'm actually joining a campaign for the first time on Sunday,
mate, that's gonna be
and
so exciting.
yeah, you say that, but I've already seen them. They finished a campaign on not this Sunday that's just passed, the previous one, and the problem is they just attack things and they don't try to actually establish a dialogue. So I'm like, guys, can we just talk to them, see what happens before we all die?
Yeah,
That might be
they're
nice.
just going around murdering orphans. It's like, no, you meant to no, kill it. Oh, okay.
It's like. No, no. Okay, fine. We'll just let it go.
So
It is what it is now.
what character are you playing? Come on, lay it on me.
I'm still working that out. I will
Oh,
let you
really?
know.
Okay.
Although, because I have Sunday as the deadline, I really need to sort this out. And they will hear this when it comes out on Friday. They'll be like, he said he would be finished. It's like, I planned at my own time, but it will be done. But I will be just posting on Facebook after this, just saying chaotic neutral forever, just as an in joke to the
Oh
both of us,
yeah, for
because no
sure.
one will actually understand that.
Absolutely. Well, you have to make sure you inform me. But what I will say is the best thing you can do is get a real detailed backstory. It makes all the difference if you're really invested in your character.
Yeah,
That's one thing I've discovered. Um, so yeah, because obviously I'm quite new to it as well. I've only been doing it before the lockdown, probably for 6 months, if that. So I was quite new to the whole thing as well. But good time.
it's good to know, man. I
Yeah,
will
dude.
definitely take on your advice. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Yeah. And so, unfortunately, we are now reaching the end of our podcast.
To be fair, I have melted your head for an hour. I do apologise for
No, it's fine.
that.
It's always good to have a nice chat and just actually good to talk about things that we love and just random connections that we end up finding out because
Oh
the
yeah,
world is weirdly small and
it's
everything else.
so weirdly small.
Yeah, it is like what? But no, we have to actually finish it because well, we have been speaking for an hour. People might get bored, but also I have work tomorrow and you have work tomorrow, so
Yes,
we
I
have to
do.
plan for
Yeah,
that as well.
yeah.
So, before we end up leaving, I would like to ask if you have any kind words for the wonderful people of TechFam and the other people listening. I have other listeners. My housemate Jack Bundy, my housemate, who was the first guest, he just told me that his mother is a listener and so is his aunt. So I'm like, need to be much more inclusive now.
um, so nice words to the tech fam. I just miss you guys. I was really bummed that Techfest didn't happen this year. I do keep up with. I'm a bit of a lurker, so I don't really post on UKTM much, but I do follow what everyone's up to, and it's been really inspiring to see so many bands pushing so hard and releasing such good music this year. Bands like God Eater and
Oh yeah.
absolutely slaying it at the moment, and it's awe inspiring to see people still pushing away. I mean, just keep going. I can't wait to see everyone again. Um, just back at gigs, having a good time, and I hope everyone is just keeping their head above water at the moment because there's no shame in just treading water. We're all doing it at the moment. You don't need to constantly be striving to do better. Just try and get through what's going on at the moment, and that's enough.
No, that's quite true, man, and thank you very much. Those were some really nice words. And it is true that, though things are hard, just try to keep your spirits up. And if people are struggling, what I can say just to add on to that, try to reach out because these are difficult times that we're all going through. And I, none of us have actually seen anything like this before. But if you're able to reach out if you need help, I would say go for it. We're all
Absolutely.
here to end up helping. And yes, on top of that, I would end up saying that my words to everyone are please look after yourselves, keep safe. Hope that the winter time is going okay for you because seasonal affective disorder is a thing. And if you need help, reach out to a friend, reach out to your loved ones. But we do hope that you guys are doing well, and we will be with you next week with more random conversations with friends just to help your day go better.
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate
No,
you having
don't
me
worry
on.
about it, man. It's been a pleasure.
All right then, man. Well, thanks very much. I'll speak to you again.
Speak to you in a bit.
Bye, dude.
Bye.